All right, we are live and we are back catching up with Clark. I did an interview, a chat with him sometime last year. Clark is an author, he is an activist, he is just an overall radical human being. I wanted to touch base with him, see what he's been up to, but it's also connected to the project Stephen and myself are working on, where we're trying to coalesce the coalitions as he has titled it, and I'm contributing. Um, what originally introduced Clark and I was an Instagram interaction. I maybe referenced it during our first chat, but I'll just kind of remind people. I had made a comment, and you had kind of, you know, replied back in a snide but justified fashion, and I said, "Hey, let's talk about it," because I do that often. So when I say that it is impossible to find people from the left to have conversations with, I mean it. And I'm honestly trying, because that's how Clark and I met. Because I on Instagram I was like, let's just talk about it. I'm not framing Clark as someone on the right either. I'll let him sort of cover his beliefs. But him and I do disagree on some things. I'm way more libertarian anarchist than he is, but ultimately, I believe Clark is on the same page as the rest of us who believe we need to deal with the parasite class. They're the ones who are really screwing up humanity. It's not the left, it's not the right. These culture war issues are what's really holding us back from making progress. And so, as I state that, I want to give Clark an opportunity to kind of just reintroduce himself. And yeah, let's hear from you, Clark.
Yeah. So, yeah, what's up? It's good to see you again. Yeah, the first time we spoke, yeah, it was. I don't even remember what it was, but yeah, I mean, I like to be on the internet, leaving snide remarks, and then like sometimes people just wanted to say things, and that's like, oh, I can have a like. I like to have like sometimes it's like I engage with the trolls. I'm trolling too, and then whatever, and then other times it leads to a good conversation. You were like, yeah, let's talk about it, and I was just like, I'm down. And I was literally in Alaska about to do climb Denali, and then I did that, so that was pretty wild. And yeah, I'm working on this project, climbing the tallest mountain in every single state. I've done 43 of them, and working on a film about it. And the working title is "Everything You Do Matters," which is basically the conclusion of a memoir that I wrote about my life. I found myself. I grew up Christian, and ended up in a place where I was just real nihilistic, acted really nihilistic, was just been selling weed as my main job for years, my only job, and just acted very nihilistic, and it got to a very I kind of bottomed out on that. Then I'm working my way back ever since, just trying to stay on the right path, and yeah.
Uh, Last time we spoke, I didn't know anything about the movie. Everything You Do Matters.
Yeah,
Um,
I realized that, like, that was like because I was like posting about this all and doing the mountains and traveling all around doing that and like posting making content. But then I was surprised I wasn't as getting as much traction as I thought, because I was watching other people who I didn't think their content was as interesting, and they were doing less interesting things. Like one guy was just biking across the country. I watched him gain like 50,000 followers. And I also realized I was like, I don't really want to make short form content. What I really want to make is like a whole, ideally, like an hour, 20-minute film that's really good looking and worth watching, gets my points across. And so that's been a doozy, but whatever. It might end up just being like a 30-minute YouTube video, but yeah.
so where are you in the process? Have you already filmed it all? Is it in the
No,
editing
so I've
stage?
only done 43 out of the 50. I basically stalled out because of life, money, and like weather. Like the season was ending, um, and I just had other shit to do. So I'm basically hunkered down in Massachusetts. I'm at my parents' house, but in that time, my girlfriend was with me the whole time. We got married, and she's actually pregnant, so I'm just steamrolling forward. Yeah. Bro lost the mic. Literally speechless. I can't hear you.
Dude, I didn't know that. Congratulations.
Yeah,
I
thanks,
knew
man.
that.
Yeah, it's crazy, but
Holy crap. Okay.
I'm YOLOing hard.
How far along are you, or is it you're just,
She's due in July.
oh my gosh. Okay. So
Yeah,
that's,
and I feel like I should mention one of the things that like really actually helped like me wrap my head around like having a kid was this. You know who Sam Hyde is, right?
I know he's a comedian. He wears the Trotsky glasses,
Yeah.
but I'm
Oh
not
yeah, he looks
familiar.
identical. You're like
Yeah.
vaguely aware of Sam Hyde.
So this is actually, I'll just, my ego, something about like, I have an ego block, like, and it's my own personal thing. I think it's an inadequacy thing. I see him and I feel inadequate for some reason. It's the goddamn glasses.
Wait, what? Looking at him makes you feel inadequate?
Yeah, he very much has mastered that condescending philosophical look. I know it's crazy.
He
It's
looks
totally
exactly
crazy.
like Trotsky.
But he's not.
Like in some videos. You should watch his Dear Elon video.
And I knew he did that video and it got like mega big. I
Yeah,
will watch it. I will stop
it's
being an ego
worthwhile.
dick.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
fun. I mean, anyway, so anyway, yeah, I just saw like a clip of him talking about like how you should have kids because they're not expensive, and he was just being like, oh, like people in Africa have kids and all the time and they're poor, and it was, and I mean, he was obviously being silly about it, but it actually like stuck with me. It was just like one of those things I was going through, and it just kind of landed being like, yeah, screw it, like, dude, like I don't need to. I used to be like, oh, I have to have like all this money and everything sorted out to have a kid, and it's like plenty of poor people who have kids all the time and they're fine. And I've been to plenty of poor places and seen the kids running around, and so I was just like, screw it, not even worried about it, having a kid.
And there are resources to help. Like, and there's no shame in going to like a food bank or something. I've done it myself. Even if you just get rice, like that saves you $5 here and there. And so that, yeah, no, there are resources, especially for new families. That's awesome. I want to, something you said kind of clicked with me, money. Inflation has been insane. Have you been following the whole Doge thing? Do you care about that? Do you like Elon Musk?
I think things. I don't think the train of society, civilization. I don't think anything major has shifted. I don't see like. I don't. I don't feel like Doge their whole administration. I feel like it's more of the same. It's well, it's just like you were saying with the parasitic class. Like I just, I, I don't trust Trump and Elon Musk. I voted for Donald Trump. Like at the very least, like Trump and Musk and those people are like, it's cooler when Trump is president. Like it's cooler. Like the vibes are cooler. Like Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Tim Walz, all those people are losers, dude. Like they're such losers. Like there's clowns. Like Joe Biden, he's literally demented and retarded. Kamala Harris, just who gives a shit? Tim Walz, you are, he's the F word. Like they suck. No one think like they're not cool. And I mean, Trump is funny. Like he's funny, and Elon Musk is cooler because he's wants to go to space. Like I believe that Elon Musk wants to go to space. I believe that he genuinely cares about Mars. I think Trump might kind of care about Americans. maybe, but he cares more about, you know, I mean, did you watch his inauguration?
No, I didn't watch the inauguration.
Okay, well, he had fucking Zuckerberg, what's his name? Like Zuckerberg, Tim Cook, the guy from Google, those people, Bezos, Musk. They're all up there, like right behind him. Like they're like closer to him than his cabinet members. It's like those people were all the enemy during COVID, right? Like those were all the people, you know, they're doing the censorship or whatever. And now they're based because Mark Zuckerberg does jujitsu. Like,
Oh,
I on testosterone. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, it's all the same things happening. Like, I don't know. I think Trump is going like the same thing that happened with the vaccine, where Trump, he put the bullet in the chamber with Operation Warp Speed, and then the Biden administration fired it with all the lockdowns and shit. Trump, what I think is going to happen, Trump and Elon Musk and them are going to use immigration and all this stuff, Doge, to set the stage for the biometric tracking, and then we'll get some other administration to come in, and then they'll execute it. That's what I think is going to happen, and I don't think that was ever in jeopardy. Like, I think that's what's going on. Everything's smooth sailing for those people. It's just like, the technological advancements with AI and shit, and inflation is a runaway train, and there's nothing that Trump can do to stop it. That's how I feel. Essentially, like in broad terms, and I think the solution is to small communities. Like if you have living family members, you should learn to get along with them. And you guys should be in like one area and try and focus on growing that and working with each other. And it's like, oh my gosh, you have a half acre of land. You should put chickens in there. You should put goats. You should have a cow over there. Like that's the type of organization. And then utilize the internet. Utilize the technology that's good. Combustible engines, the internet, plumbing, fucking heat, like electricity, of course, but then try and make your community, don't like remove yourself, but just try and make it as like self-reliant as possible. Stock up food, get guns and ammo, and then go make yourself useful.
I want to come back to that kind of later, maybe towards the end. I want to talk about solutions, but you said a bunch of things that made me think, so I have notes here. First of all, when you were talking about how it's just cooler with Trump in office, the vibes are better, that was hilarious. You are a funny person. I wanted to tell you, when you were doing your chat with Steven and you called Sam Harris a goober, dude, I laughed out loud so hard. It just hit me.
He is a goober, dude. He's such a goober.
He is, and we're in the same boat where I voted for Donald Trump, and I didn't really like it. I didn't really want to. I don't think things are that much different. My justification is I do think because Trump has such a big ego that he wants to have a positive legacy left. And so I think he's doing everything he can within the bounds of what the parasite class will let him. He's doing everything he can to make himself look as cool and positive as possible. And in all of that, just it slows down their plans. It doesn't stop them. He's not fighting them. They're just like, okay, we got to slow roll things for a while. Elon Musk, he's a transhumanist, is he not?
Right,
and
exactly. There's these people are transhumanists. I think of it like this. It's like the citizens, people like you and I are passengers in the car, and we've yelled and screamed enough to get the AC turned on a little bit, and we've got to pull over and got some snacks and some juice boxes. Like that's what's going on. Like we're going to the same place, and now it's like we maybe get a little snack, and maybe we get to pick a song on the radio, but it's moving in that direction. And since we're sitting in the car in this hypothetical analogy, metaphor, whatever it is, the meme of the guy looking out the window, smiling, looking at the sunrise, and the other guy looking out the other window, frowning, looking at just the rock wall. That's us. That's your choice, to have a positive attitude and be like, all right, this terrible shit is happening. What's the right approach? I like, even if it's like it seems hopeless, to fight back, literally or metaphorically, or literally or figuratively, in a way where it's just like, okay, if I'm fighting a losing battle and I'm definitely going to lose, like what's the best way to, if that is the case, what's the best way to approach that? Is to just give it 100% anyway, and just give them a fuck you. Like if you've ever played football, sometimes you're losing, you're like, go out there and lay a hit regardless. I think that's like spiritually the approach.
I was just thinking today that I know so many people who say, you know, I have a family, therefore I can't do anything too rebellious. And my thought is that, would you rather not die in fighting for your family and have them see you as an honorable person versus a coward who selfishly, it's a selfish thing too, because it's like, I care so much about my own, you know, future and ability to interact with my child that I'm gonna not fight back. It's selfish. If you have children, you should absolutely be fighting for their future. It's selfish not to. It's just you being a coward. I'm not calling you a coward, but like to other people, because so many people use their family as an excuse to not be active or not be engaged.
I
When it's
100% agree with you. I agree with that, and one of the reasons why I had to do this big trip of the mountains and shit, which it may not seem, is definitely not apparent on the surface, but I felt like if I'm going to have kids, especially a son, which I'm having a son, is that I need to give like 100% at life, and it's like I need to do this shit. I mean, it's deeper than just like, oh, I did it for myself, or at least that's how I feel. But like, I feel like if I'm gonna if I'm gonna ever use that, like, go out there and give it 100%. Like, if I'm ever gonna say that to my kid, I have to mean it, and I have to have like lived that and been like, yo, I got after it at life, so I expect you to do the same, because I did. Like, instead of just being like, oh, do this because I say so because I want you to. So I absolutely agree. Like, having kids is absolutely not an excuse. Like, the onus is more on you to do something, because you're just passing the buck to them.
exactly. Do you have any near term sort of predictions for what the Parasite class is going to do? Because they're not going to stop, but you know, with Trump, like we said, it's going to slow down. What do you think their next sort of big effort is going to be?
Like COVID wise.
Yeah, is it COVID, or would they drop a nuclear weapon somewhere? Like, what kind of false flag would they execute?
I mean, it's also very possible that there has been a major shift with Trump being elected, to a certain degree. That's possible. Dude, I don't know it. Like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just going off of, you know, the information that we do have. I think that, you know, I think people have woken up or whatever to a certain extent, because there's people are still talking about the Epstein list and wanting the Epstein list, which I think is like, that's like the skeleton key or whatever. It's just like the Israeli government, Mossad, used Jeffrey Epstein and other people to get sexual blackmail on the American elite, to get the Americans to fund Israel, to fund and enact and do Israeli foreign policy. And Israeli foreign policy, I think, at its core, is hyper religious. And I think in a way we are still this is what's happening is religious. There's and things, dude, it's so hard to say. I don't know, this the cyber shit. They're probably going to pull. It's probably going to be online. They're going to mess with the internet, and shit's going to shut down. That's probably what it is. I don't know.
So there's a lot of different things I have. Gosh dang, man, so many directions I want to go. But you brought up Israel, and you brought up kind of the spiritual nature of what's going on. I have been going down weird rabbit holes, but I try to be open-minded. Let me see. I'm trying to figure out the right way to introduce this. One of the rabbit holes I have gone down says that there is other religions that's not actually, so we're talking about Israel, so it's not Judaism, but there are like Baal and Moloch and all of that other stuff. But it does seem like there's something coming out of Israel, and it's the hardest thing to talk about because it's so convoluted, and if you even begin to try and bring it up, you're going to get called an anti-Semite. But there's like, it's obvious something's coming out of Israel. What is it and why? Well, we know why. It's just power, control, and resources. But how do we have this conversation?
Well, I think the need to understand. I think it's really hard, but you have to give up the need to understand. I think that's the biggest. That was one of the biggest issues for me, and I think what kind of ended it for me was I mean, I don't remember if we had talked about this last time. I was drinking beers before our last talk, but the thing that really kind of just changed things for me was I had a religious experience. Like, if you go and look up the book, I'm pretty sure I talked about this, the book, The Rise of Religious Experience by William James. There's a Penguin edition, and on the cover there's like a vortex. The guy, and this book was published about over 100 years ago, a little over 100 years ago. There's a vortex on this cover of this book. I mean, the edition came out later that I'm referring to, the Penguin edition. But I experienced like that vortex thingy, and then there's many instances, anecdotes in the book that like related to me. And I owned the book when I had this religious experience, but I never read it. But after I had it, I read it. I started reading it like 2 days later, and it was like so heavy that I had to put it down and then pick it up much later, because it was so similar to what I had experienced. And what the main takeaway from that was just like to stop thinking about all this shit and only focus on what I can do and what I can say. And that's it. Just like say what's true and useful and do what is true and useful. And I think, like, instead of asking like what's going on, it's just like the real question is, what are you going to do about it? Like, what are you? And most of the stuff is, I ain't going to do anything about it. Like, it's all outside of my control. But that doesn't mean that the things inside my sphere of control aren't important. And I think there's a lot that I can accomplish within that sphere, because that's the thing. Is like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't really know what's going on. I read stuff. I'm always reading books, and I'm online paying attention to the schizos. And then I think Whitney Webb is probably the most important journalist right now, but no one, I don't know, everyone just calls her a black pillar, or I don't know. That's a question. Why hasn't she been on Tucker Carlson? Why hasn't she been on Joe Rogan? I don't know.
I follow a really obscure YouTuber, Brendan O'Neill. He's had like multiple YouTube channels because they get deleted because he's anti-Semitic potentially, but he has called her out as actually being controlled opposition or a limited hangout. And so, yeah, I'm familiar with Whitney, but I'm also like,
maybe.
But also he himself is kind of an eccentric character. I'll send you his YouTube channel because he's interesting. But
I'm Googling him right now. I mean, I haven't heard anything of, but also that's also the same thing. It's like, if she was, who cares? Or not who, I mean, that'd be very disappointing if she was, but, you know, because this is also, it's just like, how schizophrenic do you want to get? Do you know what I mean? It's like, if you
Yeah,
start,
I'll
his name is
bring.
Brandon O'Neill.
Yeah, the third.
What?
I believe he's like the third, so Brendan O'Neill the third. But I'll bring Jesus into this for a minute, although I'm not a traditional Christian, and
Yeah, you
I
can
don't.
send me Brandon,
Yeah,
send me whatever you're talking about after.
there's this. I think it's quoted as Jesus essentially saying, "You will know them by their fruits." So you
Yeah.
just like look at people's actions and sort of what it's producing, and regardless of what they say, you'll understand their intention. So that I think about a lot. That helps absolve me from needing to understand. I just look at the outcomes. But then, kind of connected somewhat. Did you ever follow the QAnon thing? Are you familiar with that?
No, I'm aware of it, but I never was, no pun intended, I never cued any off that. I always was just like, I mean,
Yeah,
when I think of QAnon, I think of the people that went to Dallas that thought like Robert F. Kennedy Sr. Or JFK was coming back or something, and I'm like, yo, like you guys went too far, and like,
yeah. No, I follow a lot of holes. I go down a lot of rabbit holes. Something from their community that I found interesting, I guess, is this concept of white hats and dark hats. It's like the same thing for hackers, like good hackers and bad hackers.
right,
So
right, right,
their thought was that within the agencies, the FBI, the CIA, and whatnot, there's like a group of good people and a group of bad people, um, and they're
sure,
kind of at war with each other. I don't necessarily think that it's an organized, like they're either groups are organized. I just think that good people are aligning with good people. Bad people are aligning with bad people, just natural, like it's a
right,
natural convergence. Um, and maybe because you had said, uh, gosh, what did you say? You just said that there has been a shift, in terms of like what's next for the elites. There has been a shift, and
well, it's
maybe
possible,
the good people are actually like exist. Maybe there are some good FBI. I don't want to say good FBI agents, but
right.
like misguided that could be converted to good if they just quit. But actually, you don't necessarily hate all of the government, right? So you still think there should be a government, right?
Absolutely. Well, first I would begin with, I think abolishing the federal government is it's not gonna, like, Godspeed, and then and what would the aftermath of that look like? Like how, what it's I think it is out there, closer in the realm of possibility to colonizing Pluto than anything attainable. That's how I like. That's seriously how I feel. Like it's so outlandish, so it shouldn't. Don't even. Why even bother talking about it? Like that's how I feel about it. Like trying to rid the federal government, and it's like no. I think people need leadership. So I think a strong. I think America effectively should have a strong American identity and a strong central government to a certain extent. But I mean, it's like, but also like theory and abstraction and things that I believe are irrelevant to, again, like my actions. Like what, like, oh, I'm a Republican, I'm a libertarian, I'm a Christian, I'm this or that. It's just like they're, it's just in group, it's just ways for me to identify so other people can categorize me as like, oh, I'm kind of in that group or I'm out of that group. Like if someone was like, I am a Democrat, like I'm like, how the fuck could you be how could anyone right now positively identify as a Democrat? Like I get it if you're 70 and you're like, oh, I'm a Republican. It's like, okay, but like, I would never ever. I've never voted Democrat. I've always voted Republican, but I would never identify as a Republican. And that's how I feel about it. It's just like, oh, I don't think, because there's people who are like, well, I don't billionaires shouldn't exist. It's like, congratulations.
That
They
is
do.
such a stupid thing to say. I don't love billionaires, but just that is such a vapid statement. And I just want to say real quick, Steven was in the chat. He said, "What's up, guys? What is up, Steven? We're this is like a Clark's helping me get warmed up for tomorrow. I want to say that I don't disagree that people need leadership. And it's funny that you said we have a better chance to colonize Pluto than we do to build a stateless society, because I've been projecting that it's about 1,000-year project, because I do believe that is the inevitable outcome of an evolved planet is a stateless society. But we're like 1,000 years away, and in 1,000 years we'll probably be colonizing Pluto. And for me, acknowledging that we're so far away has allowed me to be more open to compromise, especially as we're trying to navigate this super corrupt situation that we're in, dealing with the parasitic class. And, just it's made me less of an asshole, because I used to just be like adamant, no matter, no government, no government, no government, which, yes, I do believe. But now that I don't think it's going to be in my lifetime, I'm more willing to compromise. And I think you and I both agree that regardless, we need less government than we have right now. Um, do you ever pontificate on like what the ideal government structure looks like?
A monarchy.
You didn't even hesitate. Tell me
I'm
more
kind.
about a monarchy.
kind of. I mean, I'm kind of joking, but I mean, you know, there are people like to talk about democracy as if that's important. Um, but I mean, we don't live in a democracy. Like, we don't. Um, the ideal form of government. The ideal form of government is me being in charge of everything. I am the king. That's my ideal form of government. I'm the king, and we're back with swords. You know, I don't know. This is kind of modernity is kind of boring. It's like it's all video. It's not boring, but there's a lot makes me depressed. Just being out and about. So many people seem so sad. That's what I want to. That's what I want to talk. Like that. These stuff. It's like I don't. What I think doesn't matter. What I think, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm not. I'm not a policymaker. I think the only thing it really worth talking about is like, what are you doing? What am I doing? And why? Because it's like I think we agree. Like, there's a lot that we agree on, and it's just like, you know, um, it's that's what's important. Like, what is in your realm? What is in your sphere of influence? And hitting that in like a way. I think I don't really pay attention to Jordan Peterson anymore, but his early Jordan Peterson had a profound impact on the culture all across the West. That's to the point where it's like a lot of his isms have become like they've just like infiltrated like culture, and that it's just like you don't even have to attribute them to him anymore, even despite I really don't know what he's up to anymore because he's had so many bad takes regarding the Middle East. So, but
I
that's the thing.
haven't.
Like,
Oh, yeah. Now I know what you're saying. His
yeah,
support for the country we talked about earlier.
right. And that's the thing. It's like I think what it seems to me was what happened is uh, Israelis are really good they're smart, they care, they're good at organizing, they're really good at leverage, and they're very insular, and they get after it. Like, and whatever, I mean, Israel convinced England to let them have Israel, and then Israel convinced the most powerful country in the world to do its bidding. Like, well done. I don't, good for them. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. Like, what am I gonna do about it? I just think, like, I talk to people about it. I talk to people about it where I'm just like, don't get caught up in this BS. Like, it's not good. Like, I don't like that Trump was like, oh, America's going to take over Gaza. I'm like, I don't, because now, like, my wife's younger brothers are 10 years younger than her. They're like 21. Like, if there's like World War III, it's like those fools would get drafted. If I have I would never let my kid, like, things would have to drastically change for me to let my son join the military. When I was a kid, I thought joining the military for the United States was a good thing. I thought America were the good guys. I remember being taught, like, oh, propaganda is a thing that happens in other countries, but not in this country. Like, I remember that when I was in like 4th or 5th grade. That's obviously not the case. America is propagandized to the gills. America foreign policy is not good. It's just American or Israeli. And I don't, and it's just like, yeah. I mean, I wanted to join the military in my late 20s because I was like, maybe I could make a run at being a ranger. And the only reason why I wanted to do it was because I wanted to be badass. And I was like, I don't want to be badass enough to go kill civilians in the Middle East. I was like, nor do I want to get killed. But so I just think, yeah, like what an individual can do, what I'm doing, what you're doing is like the only thing that matters.
I agree with you, especially about Jordan Peterson and his, direction he went. I describe it like a musician. Their old music is always better than their new music. Once they kind of get comfortable and get fame, just they don't create as much. Oh my God, Christian Watson is in the chat.
Christian Watson, what's good?
The official Christian Watson. Thank you so much. Or like I think he says rating left. I think maybe we're talking about it was Jordan Peterson. The old stuff is good. The Necessity of Virtue is a lecture that he gave. I've watched 100 times. But shit, I had a direction I wanted to go, but then I forgot.
I thought about Jordan Peterson, but I was talking about.
Oh yeah, okay.
The military.
What you can do as an individual, and this is something that's been on my mind lately. I don't do MMA. I've like rolled with friends occasionally, but like it's not my thing. I'm not a generally like aggressive person. Like I'm angry, but like not aggressive. But the question of violence has been on my mind in terms of when is violence sort of justified as a self-defense tool? Because that's vague, but I could start giving examples, like when police try to infringe on your rights and the police start, getting in your business and you're doing nothing wrong, self-defense. Or when are you allowed to put your hands on a cop? And then, why do cops feel so comfortable putting their hands on people? I think, and this isn't a black person thing. This isn't a white person thing. Anytime a person dies at the hands of a cop, I hurt, and it sucks. I follow a lot of the auditor amendment channels, the people who will film the police and not try to provoke them, but just test their knowledge of of our rights. And far too often, police are just way too comfortable getting violent and aggressive. And I think we should fight back. And I know that's super controversial to say, but what do you think?
Well, can you hear me?
Yeah, I gotcha.
So, I mean, this is actually an issue that I've been thinking about. Like the question of violence is something I've been thinking about specifically recently, more specifically in regards to Christians. And I think when is violence necessary? I think you'll know. Like you have to take it on a case-by-case basis. But I'll tell you what's always necessary is to be capable of violence.
Stephen put that in the chat. In Jordan Peterson's,
if you're not capable of it, it's what are we even talking? Like, you got to be capable of violence. And bringing up Jesus again, it's like what? So one of the things that Jesus says in the Bible is give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, but give to God what belongs to God. And a lot of people have taken that as like to basically bow down to the emperor, to the empire, to the BD in charge, which they take it as like, oh, that's what Jesus wants. Like, that's what we're supposed to do. Whereas I think he was being practical. I think Jesus is very practical. I think God is very practical in a lot of ways. Like, for instance, if you take the 10 Commandments, I mean, I don't even have them memorized, but I've thought about this and looked it up multiple times. It's like at least 40% of them are very practical. Like, they're practical. It's not like, ooh, this woo-woo spiritual, God wants you to fucking do, a blood sacrifice, which is like doesn't make sense on the surface. It's all practical. Like, don't lie, and don't cheat, don't steal, don't kill. It's like, okay, if you don't think those are good rules, like, go and break all of them and see what happens. Same thing. It's just like, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Try not giving Caesar his cut. Don't pay your taxes. See what happens. It's not going to go well for you. Like, there are two certainties in life: death and taxes. Okay, let's say you think that you should be able to fight a cop. Go do it. See what happens. You'll probably die, and then that's the end of. You don't have to worry about what to do anymore because you'll be dead. So, I think I've gone off. I have given cops serious lectures. I've also had situations with cops where I have, acted like a little bitch because I was like, I'm not testing this cop's patience right now. It was case by case basis. And it's just like, I think it's good to fight fights that you can win. Like, but then also sometimes, like, you have no other option.
That's
like,
Stephen.
Like, and it's just like, yeah, if you're in jail and there's two dudes coming at you and you're cornered, which is like, I'm going out, and I'm going out, like this, as opposed to, spreading your butt cheeks. And it's just like, yeah, but, and people talk about, like, Jesus, again, turn the other cheek. I don't believe that Jesus was that was a commandment to be a perpetual pacifist. I believe it was meant to undermine. Like, the Jews were second-class citizens in a very oppressive hierarchy, and then Jesus was oppressed within that group. And so he was talking like, and these people were the Jews were or certain groups of the Jews were very caught up at that time with being like, yo, we want to overthrow the Roman Empire, and it wasn't going to happen. So it's like, how do you act as a self-respecting Jew in that situation? What happens if a Roman soldier slaps you on the face? Well, if you fight back, he's going to fucking kill you. But if you go, oh, well, slap my other one, you're taking away their power. Like, you're undermining them. Like, it's like if I hit you and you're like, that didn't even hurt me. Like, you've seen fighters do that, being like, what? Hit me. They're not even defending. And it takes away their power. Like, that's what Gandhi did in India against the English. He did whatever it's called. Like, it was nonviolent resistance, civil disobedience, whatever it's called. But what happened was it showed the world it exposed the English Empire as being like, oh yeah, you guys are being a little gross. It is a little rude that you guys are taking over India. Like, so he used his stoicism, whatever, like, I will not react, which made them just, attack them. And then eventually England left. And likewise with the Roman Empire, like, the Holy Roman Empire became Christian through, obviously there was violence later on, but like, the Jews didn't overthrow the empire. It changed and died. And that's what I think, and that brings us to us. It's like, Jesus did what he did in an extraordinarily oppressive situation, way more oppressive than it is now. And look what he did. But, but that was what he was showing people, like, how to basically be free spiritually in an extremely oppressive world. He was oppressed by his own people who were being oppressed by a greater people. Like, it was just like of oppression of, and he had quite the impact. And that's what we can do. It's just like, yeah, you can't save the world, or maybe you'll never become worth $100 million, but like you can make an impact to the people that you come across every single day. Like you can choose to be the guy in the meme looking out the window and having a positive attitude and help other people along. And maybe that does somehow matter. Everything you do matters. That's the name of my thing. And but also it's like I have to choose to be into that every single day. Like it's very like I'm at my parents' house. I have a pregnant wife at my parents' house. Like I'm a huge fucking loser. And then at the same time, it's like, wow, I'm so privileged and lucky to have that. You know what I mean? Like to be here. And like, you know,
I
I'm not, you know,
I know
you,
exactly what you mean.
my parents' house is paid off. And it's not like not to be lazy or anything, but it's just like that's a gift. And I think more people should. One of the things that I'm against, like I'm a Christian. I'm pretty much just like giving up a lot of things mentally to just be like I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus. I just am choosing to believe that he raised from the dead. But I'm all like that really happened. But I also believe that's like we still have to do what we're supposed to do. And that's one of the things like I've been working on and talking about. Like I want to work with Christians because I think it's like they actually believe in something allegedly, and there's a lot of history there, blah blah blah, and I think they're organized to a certain extent. And it's like there's no other group that you can point to and be like, these are the people I would join. So it's like I'm in the Christian camp. It's to what degree, blah blah blah. Because it's very difficult for me to find any people I'm aligned with in Massachusetts, but I have found people I'm more aligned with practically online, and I might end up going to where they're at. But that's one of the main things I want to talk about is the false idols in Christianity, and individualism is one of them. Like this whole notion, like get out there and get your own house and go into debt for 30 years is a stupid idea. And the only reason why it even got promulgated was to essentially serve bankers. And this is where hierarchy comes back, and it's just like hierarchies should be respected at all within the family, respected within the community, within the church. And it's just like if these boomers have a room, you should be in it. But then likewise, you should be helping out your parents and your grandparents. Like my grandma, she just broke her leg. She's in the hospital, was in rehab. I've been there every single day, multiple times a day, checking in, making sure she's doing good. And it's not fun all the time. She's shitting in the bed, but like, that's what I'm supposed to do. And when I'm in California, or when I was in California, I can't do that. I quite literally can't take care of my grandma. And, you know, and she can afford to pay people to do it, but no one is going to care about my grandma that she pays because that's their job. Whereas to me, she is my actual grandma, and I'm her grandson, and she has dementia. But every time she sees me, she lights up because she's like, I'm there, I'm on her side, I advocate for her. And then everyone around there also knows that it's like she has someone that cares about her enough to come every single day. So they gotta fucking take care of her because I ask questions every single day. And it's like, this is where it's like, it gets all, we can talk about all this shit, but then it's like, it just comes down to like a laser of like, what are you doing? Like, and like, that's where the Christian Jesus message comes in. It's like, and worry about fucking Trump and Elon Musk. It's like, or I can just like focus on my grandma.
I just want to throw out here, Stephen, still on the violence subject, said when the other individual has showcased he will not listen to logic, reasoning, or even displaying empathy and still persists, then I feel it is needed because you've tried every other option. And then Christian,
you could just also walk away though. Like I've dealt with people like that all the time. You just walk away. I mean, if they're really, it also depends on your mood. Can you get I don't know. Can you get away with it? I've punched people in the face, but there's also been times where I've just, you know, walked away.
And
like it really depends. I think violence is. I think violence. Hold on, sorry. I gotta plug my phone Oh
Yeah, let
shit.
me read. So Christian responded to something you said. He said, unwise financial decisions are a product of numerous sources: gullibility, poor impulse control, a lack of financial literacy skills, etc. He says individualism is not one of them. Um,
Individualism is not what?
uh, unwise financial decisions are a product of numerous sources. So he says individualism is not um, the result of unwise, or does not create unwise financial decisions.
Well,
Um,
I didn't say that verbatim, but I think I said it's a false idol in the church. I
Cr-
would. That's how I would communicate it to the church because I mean, yes, I'm not saying individualism is the only reason for unwise financial decisions, but I think individualism is something that has gone too far in our culture. Like most people aren't succeeding as individuals. Like most people aren't in our society. I think it's like you get most of your meaning in terms of like how it loops back in to your relationships with other people. Like when I was more individualistic, that meant me like just trying to hook up with girls all the time, which is fun. But like having a relationship with my wife is much more meaningful and valuable to me. I'm also 34, but like, and then it's just like I'm not an individual anymore. I'm like literally three people. I have like my wife and then like my child, and I'm not going to argue with someone in the comments,
no,
but
no, no, no. He's coming from a good place. Promise. I promise you.
no,
Christian's a really,
yeah, I
yeah,
believe
yeah.
it. Yeah, I
Um,
was using it as an example because I mean that like I think at its core, individualism has been the in terms of like how it's manifested in advertising and marketing. It's individualism. They haven't been pulling on family legacy honor and shit like that to justify going out on your own. It's all about get after it, keep up with the Joneses. You're the man. You go girl. Individualism. I just think it's run its course.
uh,
Mr.
I,
Elon
I,
Musk.
I appreciate, I appreciate your desire to connect with the Christian community because that's perfect. That's what we need, especially because you're like a super open-minded person. I love Eastern philosophy, and there's this expression. I actually saw it in like an Asian movie, but it's very philosophical. It goes, "Your life belongs to you, and it doesn't." And that is so zen.
Yeah.
That is just such a zen koan. Because when you think about it, well, you just described exactly that point. You know, you are your own person, but at the same time, you're responsible for your wife and your child. So therefore, um, you don't get to make stupid decisions selfishly. You have to think about them. So you depicted it perfectly, and it's so important. The Christian community right now is they're sort of centering around a more orthodox approach because they have been infiltrated by the LGBTQ community, and they're just culturally more popular. So they're trying to get more back to their base, which
Right.
makes it more difficult for us to sort of be welcome in their communities. Because I'm an acid dropping hippie, but I still appreciate Jesus, man. I fuck with Jesus. There's so many things that Jesus has said that it's like so simple and so beautiful. Not the Bible, whatever, but just Jesus is such a cool dude. And so the next few years, it's going to be interesting to watch your journey. It's so cool that you're about to start a family. Um, Kind of on the note of families, and I had said I wanted to bring the small communities thing back into it, um, in terms of solutions. So you've suggested as a solution to sort of resist is that you build your own protected, not entirely insular community, but you do try to isolate from the technocratic overlords who are trying to implement smart cities. Uh, do you think smart cities are a future gulag that we need to be concerned about?
I think I think what's going to happen is it's kind of going to be like what's always happened is some places will be good and some places will suck. You know, like yeah, I think I think it will be largely dependent on your community, like the people that, like, yeah, if you can get with some good people and get in a good area that, you know, and there's some land, like, I think, and you make yourself useful, I think you'll be fine. I think people will be fine. But I think you have to do that, or else, like, people, yeah. I think you have to look at things honestly and clearly, though. Like, you know, I mean, that's one of the things that, like, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I hold on to Bitcoin, and I have some gold and silver, and I have some guns and, like, food and stuff. And so I feel like it's like you want to just really prepare for the worst, hope for the best. It's like the same shit. Like, I'm still gonna, like, go out there and, like, work for dollars, you know, even though I think the dollar has a, you know, a declining timeline.
I appreciate this conversation because it's helping mellow me out. Because when I started the conversation, I loved the idea. I romanticized the idea of the whole land, people buying land together, but then forcing the police out. So forcing the sheriffs out, sort of, because like I had said earlier, I don't like how comfortable authorities are putting their hands on people, how comfortable they are infringing on people's just basic rights. And so maybe a better solution, but this is harder, it's trickier, is to befriend the sheriffs, or even more.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Which that's the ideal solution. But what do you do if maybe you don't have a good relationship? Infiltrate. That's another thing. If you don't like the current sheriff, but you have a friend who maybe could take over, start advocating for them. Act. What's the word when you try to promote a politician? You
Campaign.
There we go. Help campaign for them. So we have to use the system in a way to sort of, as I say, dismantle it. Although you and I disagree that, you know, I think it shouldn't exist at all. But moving forward, you know, I do think it does need a lot of improvements, or rather, yeah, it just needs improvements, redirected. The ship needs redirected so we can just infiltrate that. And that's what I dream about too, is land and friends and just pretty much no government around. And we just do our own thing until we have to go to town and exchange resources. I think it's inevitable that we'd have to interact with the cities somewhat, but just limiting city interaction, because that's also most likely where a false flag will occur. That's something I think about. Seattle's never really been hit with anything. I worry, like, what could they do for Seattle? I know it's me being schizo now, but
there was the feds at the World Trade Convention in Seattle, right?
Was that like 92 maybe? That was,
yeah, and it was in the 90s.
Okay, yeah, so maybe Seattle's had that.
So Seattle's on the map. World Trade Convention. Yeah, 1999.
Oh, 99, really? Wow, okay.
Sometimes referred to as the Battle of Seattle, when a series of anti-globalization protests surrounded the WTO Ministerial Conference of 1999, where members of the World Trade Organization convened the Washington State Convention and Trade Center in Seattle, Washington. And then, yeah, there was, what were they? Fed instigators. They did what they did at January 6th. The January 6th in Seattle, 99.
Oh, boy.
CIA shit, bro.
So, yeah, January 6th was it not an inside job in that everyone there was a Fed, but there were a lot of Feds there. Is that what you're saying? I mean, yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah, no, dude, there was a bunch of yahoos there, of course, but there was absolutely Feds there being like, let's go! Like, let's do it! Let's totally break the law! Like, Feds being like, let's do illegal things, it's good to do it. Like, have you not seen the video of that dude, Ray Epps, being like, we have to go into the Capitol building, and everyone just starts going, Fed, 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 and that dude never got arrested.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. I'm vaguely familiar with the Ray Epps thing. Just I don't know. I can't believe people were in prison for that though. That bums me out.
Oh yeah, that and not good conditions, having bad times in jail.
Solitary confinement, I've heard for some people, which is for certain amounts of time, that breaks like Geneva Convention, I thought, but or Geneva Code or
I
whatever it
think
is.
I think it's inhumane. People I think people who I think the whole incarcerated, like, and this is something I just got hip to recently. Even thinking about it, it's just like I think people should be like beaten in public, and then like as opposed to just being like it's dude locking people away for years in solitary confinement, like that's terrible. Like that, I mean, what would you rather take, like a public whipping or solitary confinement for like 3 years? It's like just no. I'd rather get branded on my forehead with like a T or for traitors. You know what I mean? Like the shit that they used to do.
So you just want to go back to like medieval days. You want like kings
Yeah,
and
but with
queens
iPhone.
and stocks, but with iPhones. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Oh, absolutely. People should be put in the stocks, in the public square, and then people can go up and throw tomatoes at them or whatever. Like that's such a more effective use of tax dollars than fucking putting them in prison for 10 years.
If they, yeah, I might throw a tomato.
That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah,
But I am really tired, so I'm gonna start to wrap up. I was gonna ask if there was like any other suggestions or solutions you have. I know you really are thinking people just need to be empowered for themselves and just live their life and do their thing. But in the context of trying to bring together communities to form like some movement or some resistance. Is there any suggestions you have for how we can sort of essentially stop the culture wars? Because that's what the parasite class are doing. They're using culture wars to divide people. How can we stop that?
I think focus. I mean, I think yeah, that shit's like in that realm of stuff that you. It's like I think if you turn off the TV and stuff, if you were to get rid of if you got rid of the internet in your life for a month, you wouldn't even none of this stuff would even come up. Like, and I think like, but I mean, it exists, and it really like the dollar is getting devalued, and there are microplastics, and fucking we're gonna take over Gaza apparently, like these things, and yes, cops are kicking people's asses, but be grateful they're not beating up you if they're not. And I think focusing on just like if your actions, like all right, here's an action, and you get the feedback. It's just like you're focusing on things that like you can control and you see the results of. Like me having a good relationship with my wife is much more important to me than voting. You know what I mean? Or protesting or anything. It's just like, I mean, and where I live, it's just like the cops. We're the youngest people in the town, so I'm not that concerned about the cops right now. But I'm not a big fan of them. I think just only like literally only caring about yourself as a person, and then the few other people that are in your life. Like seriously, like doing that. I think that is the move. And then make money, and unless you're worth like $100 million, like don't worry about that shit. Like just focus on like you and your people. And it's like if you get more money, like build a sick spot with a dope basement that you can go to if shit gets crazy, and like give you a strong community. I think you should become a Christian nationalist. That's what I think you should do. I think you should join a Christian nationalist group and start and get married and impregnating one of those ladies and build houses.
Oh man, if the Amish would let me drop acid.
Dude, they won't even notice. Don't even just pretend that you're praying. If you're acting weird, just start praying. Like, dude, you can literally drop acid around normies and they won't notice. Like, just, I mean, you might have to put glasses on or put your hat low or something, but just go outside. Like, I'm going for a walk for 6 hours. And don't let how often do you take acid?
Oh, not often. It's been like, yeah, I don't know, not often. I just want to be able to. That's all. Just when I want.
You know, it's funny because I thought the exact same thing, and being like, oh, like these people will never let me fucking do psychedelic drugs, but I haven't done them in a long time. I really don't need to. I'm probably done with that stuff for like a while. Like I don't really feel I don't really feel the need to. What did Terrence McKenna say? We get the message, hang up the phone.
I like that. Is there anything else you want to shout out? Anything you want to get out there?
Nah, baby, namaste.
All right. Namaste. I'm going to end the stream. Let's see. End.